Your S175 dies mid-pile and the panel scrolls 117. Factory meaning air filter plugged. That's a filter, not a rebuild. The code sitting right beside it in the book points at that same filter with the opposite problem. That's this machine's whole personality, service codes in near-identical pairs that cost wildly different money. One says the controller can't see the part at all. The other says the part is choked. Today, the real factory code table for the S175 decoded exactly as written, cheapest cause first. One honesty note before we start, because it'll save you an afternoon of forum scrolling. If somebody hands you a chart claiming a digit always means a certain circuit, close the tab. Bobcat numbers faults differently across generations. A decoder from another model will lie to you with total confidence. There's no shortcut legend here. There's your machine's own table, word for word, and nothing else. Good news, that table is boring in the best possible way. Most entries name the part out loud. Here's how the panel talks. The hour meter display doubles as the code display, and if more than one service code is present, the codes scroll one after another on repeat. That scroll is what starts the panic. 4 codes look like 4 failures. Usually it's one failure with witnesses. So write them all down before you touch anything. Every code, in order, on the back of a receipt. Now the cheap end where most of these calls actually end. Filters. 116 reads air filter not connected, not dirty, not plugged, not connected. That's usually a lead knocked loose by a hand reaching past it, or a pin backed out of its connector. The hydraulic side tells the same story. 216 is the implement filter reported as not connected. And the charge filter has its own not connected code, saying exactly the same thing about itself. 3 filters, 3 codes, 1 identical cause hiding behind all of them. A connector nobody touched on purpose. Wiggle test. Key on, hand on the harness, eyes on the display. Code blinks in and out, found it. Now flip each of those over. 217 means implement filter plugged. That's restriction, and restriction is real. It's the filter doing its job right up until it can't pass fluid anymore. The charge filter's plug code is the one owners ignore longest and regret hardest. Charge pressure feeds the drive system. Starve that and you're not shopping for a filter anymore. So here's the first rule. Not connected wants a flashlight. Plugged wants a wrench in 10 minutes. Next family, and it's the one that fixes every other problem on this machine. Voltage. 3.9 is battery voltage low. Simple words and the most misleading code in the whole book. Low voltage makes solenoids chatter, sensors drift, and controllers report faults about parts that are perfectly fine. That's the part most people miss. Fix the power first, and half your code list disappears. If that just reframes something for you, that's exactly what this channel is for. Stick around. The manual is blunt about the usual suspect. Corroded or loose grounds cause this kind of trouble. So check grounds. Don't guess at them. Bright metal, tight bolt, no paint under the ring terminal. There's a high side too. 310, battery voltage high, sends you at the charging system instead. The manual keeps a whole charging system check for that. Work through it before you buy an alternator. Then 2 codes that mean stop working and start worrying, extremely high and extremely low. 311 is battery voltage extremely high. That's the range where you cook electronics instead of just annoying them. Its mirror, extremely low, usually shows up while cranking, when a tired battery drops out under load. There's also a controller side code for battery voltage out of range. The same complaint from a different seat. Same routine every time. Clean the grounds, load test the battery, then read the display again. Now the codes that stop the machine cold and feel like a failure, but usually aren't one. Operator presence. 11.5 is seat bar sensor short to battery, and there's a short to ground twin. 2 directions of one wiring fault, and the difference tells you exactly what that wire found. Short to battery means it touched power it shouldn't. Short to ground means it touched bare metal. So look where the harness moves, under the seat, over an edge, anywhere a boot's been landing for years. The handle lock repeats it. 3261 is handle lock short to ground, with a battery side partner right beside it. The pedal lock does the same thing again, ground and battery, in its own pair of entries, which is why the machine randomly refuses to move. It isn't random, it's a wire moving with the seat. Next, auxiliary hydraulics, where the code often lands before you've done anything wrong at all. 1223 reads front auxiliary PWM switch, not in neutral. It won't arm because the switch is still holding. A sticky thumb switch, gummed up detent, a glove leaning on it. Check the switch before you trace the circuit. That same switch is out of range codes on both sides too, one high and one low. Out of range means the signal left the window the controller expects. That's a sensor conversation, not a hydraulic one. Now the solenoid codes, and this is where the exact wording earns its keep. 24.2 is rear rod solenoid error, ON. Error ON. It doesn't say the solenoid failed. Error ON means it's energized when nothing asked for it. There's an error OF, meaning the opposite. Stuck on is the one that hurts. That's a function happening with no request behind it. The front base solenoid carries its own ON and OFF pair, so does the rear auxiliary relief solenoid. Even the drive gets it. 2-speed secondary error ON is why it sits in the wrong range. And 35.3 hydraulic fan error, OFF, is the one you never hear. You feel it later as heat. A fan that never commanded on doesn't shout. It just quietly cooks your oil all afternoon. Last family, and it's the most misread on this machine, the control system, talking about itself. 32.4 says the ACS isn't communicating with the Bobcat controller. That's a conversation that stopped mid-sentence. Before you condemn a control box, look at what the table lists a few lines away, not calibrated. A control that's never been calibrated behaves exactly like a broken one and costs nothing to rule out. There's also a code for multiple controllers present, the machine finding 2 of something it expects 1 of. That one shows up after somebody adds a module. It's a configuration problem wearing a failure costume. Then the actuator codes, and these are the ones that deserve real respect. 3259 is lift actuator wrong direction. The machine saw motion opposite to what it commanded. Tilt has its own wrong direction entry. That's not a wait and see. Park it and fix it. There are wiring fault codes for the tilt actuator and the tilt handle listed separately for a reason. Separate codes mean separate harnesses. The table is telling you which end of the circuit to open first. But here's the one nobody talks about. 3257, lift actuator reduced performance. Reduced performance isn't a failure. It's a warning shot logged while everything still technically works. It's the machine saying it's slower than it should be before you'd ever feel the difference yourself. And when a code claims your hydraulics are weak, stop guessing and go measure it properly. Warm the fluid to 140 degrees first. Cold oil makes a healthy pump look sick. Then flow test it. Under load, output has to hold most of what it made unloaded. That's the verdict. That's the difference between a code and a diagnosis. One is a rumor, the other is a reading. So write down every code that scrolls, fix power and grounds first, then chase parts, in that order. The exact pressures, specs, and procedures are in the service manual linked below. Like this, if it saved you a guess. Subscribe for daily diagnostics. Next up, the charge pressure test that settles a weak hydraulics argument in 10 minutes. Codes tell you where to look. The manual tells you what's true. See you on the next one.